Hello. Uh, I presume that my voice is audible. Could anybody confirm? Okay. So, okay, thank you, Prabhavati R. So, this session, introductory session on exploratory data analysis, has been scheduled to introduce the listeners about what exactly exploratory data analysis is and a little bit of hands-on using R and RStudio package. So before going further, I would like to discuss all of you understand what is the image on the screen is, right? This is a popcorn image. So normally we buy popcorn during when we go to movies or whenever we want to kill the time, we buy popcorn, and whenever we are waiting for somebody, or majority we buy popcorn during movies, right? So during these times, before buying popcorn, right away we don't go and buy popcorn, right? So we will check the flavor of the popcorn and who is doing it, whether the popcorn is hot or not, whether it is freshly prepared or not. And after making a lot of investigations on the popcorn, we finally buy it. So the exploratory data analysis is nothing but investigating about what you have already in the hand before proceeding it with the model building. If you don't understand what is model, don't worry. We will introduce you to model the later part of this webinar. So at any point in time, you feel free to interrupt me so that this can be an interactive session rather a one-way session. So whenever you are buying a popcorn, you make all the investigations before investing your money. All that investigations on the data, if you perform, that becomes exploratory data analysis. Okay. So normally what happens in the data science? So what happens in the data science is initially we gather the data, we analyze the data, and we draw the conclusions, right? So gathering the data, analyzing the data, and drawing the conclusion. The analyzing the data is the part where actually the exploratory data analysis comes into picture. So we analyze the data in order to know which techniques or which statistical model or ML model is applicable on my data. Based on my understanding, I will proceed to select a very few techniques which could be applied. So suppose you think if I have a nonlinear data, if I want to fit the linear regression model on it, it is not possible. You can somehow do it, but it will not yield the better result. So exploratory data analysis, you think in a way that you perform all the necessary initial investigations before taking a right tool. So in order to fight with the tiger, we need to use a gun, not stick, right? So if I want to fight with a dog, I will perform the stick than a gun. So depending on the data, the model needs to be selected. Majority what happens, as I'm from the academic background, I see many students who come across many data set without investigating about the data, they right away use any APIs of the ML model. They give the input and they will get some output. So if I ask them why they have chosen the particular model, ML model, you can consider a decision tree or linear logistic regression or anything, neural networks or deep learning models. Majority many students will never give necessary definition because of this characteristics of the data, this particular ML or the statistical model has been selected. What has been become is we have the data and we normally tend to analyze the data with the any model, but any model will give the accuracy and that accuracy will be reported. But there needs to be some tool for saying this model has been selected based on these characteristics of the data. That is lacking currently. So that is where the exploratory data analysis comes into picture. Okay. So going further, in exploratory data analysis, data never sleeps, right? I can sleep, you can sleep, anyone else on the planet can sleep, but the data never sleeps. So data is the new oil, and using the data we gather the insights. Before gathering the insight, before building a model, the exploratory data analysis we apply. So here, ED is all about making the sense of the data in hand before getting them dirty with it. So I can build the model. So same data can be used for building a neural network model or a deep learning model, or I can build a simple association learning model or the decision tree or the random forest. If I don't know what is in my data, what kind of data it is, it cannot be used to build a better model. Suppose you consider we are I am cooking today. So if I am not familiar with the ingredients at all, and if you expect me to cook a better food, it is not possible at all. So exploratory data analysis will give us a platform wherein I can understand my data. Depending on the kind of data or kind of ingredient has been given to me, the right kind of dish I can prepare. This is where exploratory data analysis comes into picture. So let me walk you through where and all the exploratory data analysis or the use cases of exploratory data analysis is maximizing the insight into the data set. Right? I can say the mean of first data set is 30, the second data set is 30, the third data set is 30, but the summary statistic, that is mean itself, will not give me the enough information about the data set. I need to look into the data set, what kind of numbers are there. So what else can be done using exploratory data analysis is uncovering the underlying structure, extract the important variables, detecting the outliers, anomalies, testing the underlying assumptions, developing the models. So this is a very important thing. Developing the model is a very important thing. What we do in the exploratory data analysis plays a very important role in the developing the model. And the last thing is determining the optimal factor settings. So that we will come to in the later part of this webinar. Okay. So here how the exploratory data analysis happens. So where exactly in the data science pipeline the exploratory data analysis comes into picture. So here you have a real world. The machines, processes, process-aware information systems are generating a lot of data. That data is getting recorded in some information systems. The data will be processed initially, and the same data is taken and data will be cleaned. So what I'm explaining currently is with respect to the normal data science work cycle, or the how do we build the data science models at the very high level. First we collect the data, process the data, clean the data. Then what we do is we will implement the model and the algorithms. Once the algorithms are implemented, what we do is we will communicate or the visualize the model, or we will communicate for the decision making. Finally, what will happen? We will develop a data product, or we will create the model that can be used for the decision making. These are the output of the normal data science lifecycle. And the same can be used for making the real life decisions. So this is the normal workflow, but where exactly exploratory data analysis comes into picture here is once the data set is processed or once the data set is cleaned, we will take a help of exploratory data analysis wherein we use exploratory technique like visualization technique, anomaly detection technique, hypothesis techniques, or assumption checking techniques in order to find out any nuances in the data line by line, or the summary statistics. We will understand the data. Depending on the data itself will recommend what kind of model is appropriate for processing, or what kind of model is appropriate for building. Either it can be statistical model or ML model. So this is normally where exactly the exploratory data analysis fits in data science lifecycle. So if you remove exploratory data analysis, it is all up to the analyst. See, if the analyst is having the enough information about exploratory data or the data set, the exploratory data analysis is not required. He can right away go and choose the algorithm or the model to implement on the data. But if the analyst wants to gain some insight on the data, and if he is very new or the data itself is some black box, the exploratory data analysis needs to be run on the data, then the model can be deployed or the right model can be selected. So you are free to ask me any questions in between so that it can be interactive session. Okay. So the next thing is whatever has been highlighted. Once the data has been processed, once the data has been cleaned, and then the exploratory data analysis, the highlighted parts and the arrow marks can go numerous times. If you feel that for processing the data or exploratory processing of the data cannot be done if the data set is not been properly processed, that loop can execute for indefinitely. Once the enough understanding has been brought on the exploratory data or the data, then only the model implementation can begin. Otherwise, data analysis, data pre-processing, cleaning the data set, exploratory data analysis can recur. Okay. So all these things, because of the time crunch, I'm just skipping the other things which are not so necessary, because this has been scheduled for only half an hour. So normally we use R and R Studio. So I presume that you have used R and R Studio before, or if you are new to R and R Studio, I don't know. So let me give you a brief of what R and R Studio is. R is a statistical programming language and it is an open source, and R Studio is an editor for R programs. Okay. I will show you what is R and R Studio. Before installing R or R Studio, the very first requirement is you need to install R, then R Studio can be installed. R Studio will give you the IDE for editing the R programs. Unlike in the C program or any programming language you are familiar, there are packages or the libraries. There are more than 10,000 packages is available in CRAN. CRAN means Comprehensive R Archive Network for different. So if you want to visualize, you can do using multiple packages. If you want to clean the data, there are many packages. If you want to three-dimensional visualization, that is also possible, and many other functionalities are possible. But depending on your requirement, you can choose any one of the package which is available in R and R Studio. And if you want to download R, you can use for cran.rproject.org. CRAN means Comprehensive R Archive Network, rproject.org. If you just type download R, you will be prompted or you will be taken to that particular website. From there you can download depending on your the kind of operating system you are using. See, here is the R Studio IDE. Once you install R, then R Studio can be downloaded from rstudio.org. That is a free source. You can install it, and you need to restart your system once, and then R Studio can be started. So once you open the R Studio, this is the user interface you will see. In this user interface, there are 4 quadrants. The first quadrant is environment pane. The second quadrant is a program pane. The third quadrant is a console pane. And the fourth quadrant is a files pane. So these are the 4 different quadrants you can see. The most of the computation, most of the work with the R Studio will be doing with the help of these 4 pane. That I will walk you through in another 10 minutes about how to work with this R Studio. So any doubts so far? If you have any doubts, you can keep me posted in the chat section of this session so that I can take up your doubts in case if you have. Okay. So the next thing is, so all these things, the slides will be posted. Because of the time crunch, I will not be able to run through all the slides. There is something called as a summary statistics. Data visualization is also possible with the R Studio. So the kind of data visualization what we can do in the R Studio is These are the RStudio is basically meant for the visualization of the statistical models, and EDA is much closely related to statistics. So different kind of distributions can be visualized, different kinds of correlations can be visualized. You can see the scatter plot, heat map, correlogram, bubble, connected scatter, and the density 2D. And there is one package called as a ggplot2 in RStudio that does extensive visualization, and those are session we can schedule in coming days. But visualizations are very extensive in RStudio, and you can even visualize the ranking using the bar plot, spider plot, parallel plot, lollipop plot, and the circular plot. I think you might have come across any one of these plot during if you are following the cricket. In cricket matches, they show many plots regarding the rankings. The part of a whole plot is a kind of a plot you can show the significance of any particular part of a data, how significant it is compared to all the parts. One such example is a pie chart, wherein every portion of the pie chart shows what is the proportion with respect to the other part of the data, right? So there are multiple different kinds of plots. You can see the group plot, tree map, donut, and a dendrogram, circular packing, and many other kinds of plots also you can check. So evolution plots are different kinds of plot, and the flow plots are different. All these plots can be done in RStudio. The additional plots can be animation, interactivity, 3D model, keywords, and the data art. So in the upcoming seminars, I'll be speaking about each one of these plots individually using RStudio and how to generate these plots. And all of these plots are very required for if you are research oriented or if you are interested in visualizing the data if you have at your hand. So this is about what and all you can do with the exploratory data analysis. Because I'm running little fast because this webinar has been scheduled for only the short duration, half an hour. I wanted to make sure that where exactly the exploratory data analysis comes into picture, that is before selecting the model, the exploratory data analysis needs to be done. R and RStudio are the softwares you will be requiring for doing the exploratory data analysis. R is a statistical computational language, and RStudio is the editor or the IDE we'll use for doing the exploratory data analysis. I'm not limiting R and RStudio for exploratory data analysis. There are even you can build the machine learning model, you can build different statistical model using R and RStudio. This is all up to your convenience, but with respect to exploratory data analysis, we'll be using R and RStudio. Okay, because I have told there are 10,000 packages available. You can think of the possibility what you can do using RStudio and R programming software. Okay, so anybody can tell me what is this? What is being currently shown on the screen? Anybody can comment? Can anybody comment what is it exactly? So it is a painting, as Pravavati R is saying. Madam, actually this is a graph generated out of a data. This is also a graph. This is what the possibility can be if one is to visualize the data. This is also some data has been visualized in this way. And here is one more graph. So I think you can find out this graph is something representing the trend of a stock, but a data analyst can visualize the graph in this way also. This is a data art. There is one website called as a data art wherein you can see visualizing the data in artistical way. Okay, so the next thing is this is also a graph generated using the data. Here is one more graph generated using the data. If you are a good storyteller, data is enough to paint. All of this can be done using RStudio. But my point is not to introduce you to the graph, but I wanted to tell you what exploratory data analysis, but these are the additionals I am giving. So before moving on further with the R console, if any one of you have any doubts or anything so far what we have discussed, I'm pausing here for half a minute or one. You can ask me any doubts if you have. So let me bring up my RStudio console. Okay, my RStudio console is loading. 1 minute. Okay, let me switch my sharing screen from this to the RStudio console so that you will be able to see. Okay. So I presume you are able to see the window, right? RStudio. 1 minute. What I'll do is we'll close the previous presentation. Give me a minute. It is taking some time. Okay. 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 Sorry. This has zoom control, zoom out. Okay. Not view. So this was the setup I had done for some other presentation. This has been carried. Okay, all of you are able to see, right? What is being currently on the screen? Okay. So here is the actual RStudio. This is where actual the statistical computations will be done. So here, what exploratory we can do? Suppose if you ask me the kind of exploratory analysis you can do. 1 minute. I don't know why it has come up. Something like this. Let me close other windows so that it is killing too much of bandwidth. Okay, so here you have the data. This is the first quadrant, second quadrant. So suppose if you think this is the first quadrant, okay, where I'm saying the second quadrant is here, the third quadrant is here, the fourth quadrant is here. So where I am showing my mouse. So the first quadrant, all you can see is the environment, history, connection, and the tutorial. So let us not bother about that, but let me just show you what you can do here. So in the first quadrant, I'm taking you to the third quadrant altogether. So I will load some libraries so that I'll be able to use the data set given in that library. So to show you what and all can be done using here. Very just basic functionalities I'll be showing using RStudio. So here I'll be needing some library named the quadrants. So here in the quadrants, the first quadrant, here what we have is the environment. Second tab in the first quadrant is the history. The third tab in the first quadrant is the connection. The fourth tab in the first quadrant is the tutorial. So here in this environment, you check list of all the variables which I have created so far. Suppose a is equal to 10, b is equal to 20, 30, something like that. If I have created, all the variables of the programs will be accessed here. At a high level, we need to remember that all the variables of my programs will be here. Otherwise, what I will do is I will clean that all this environment. Okay, I'll clean that all the environment. I will remove. I will create in the third quadrant in the console. I'll create one variable a is equal to 10. I'll do. Okay, a is equal to 10. So this a is equal to 10. A is a variable. So that got registered in the environment now. So how many variable you will be creating? All that variable will be in the environment. Okay. So history is the set of commands which I have executed. Recently I have executed a is equal to 10. It has got recorded here. In case if I want to repeat the same thing, if I double click, that will be copied in the console. And I can again run that line what I have executed. All that line of code what I have executed will be recorded in the history. By default, around 256 to 512 commands which have executed previously will be recorded in the history, but the length of the history can be changed. So this is basic about the first quadrant. In the second quadrant, what we are seeing here is if you want to write any R script, if you want to write any programs other than executing the commands, you can do so. Program means set of instructions. If you want to write any instructions using R programming, you can choose to do so. Suppose in the third quadrant, if you want to execute any single line of code, that you can do using the in the third quadrant. And here in the fourth quadrant, in your working directory, the first tab of the fourth quadrant is showing all the files in your working directory. The second quadrant in the second tab in the fourth quadrant, if I click on plots, it will show if I draw any plot. Suppose you consider box plot. Okay, if I want to draw a box plot, so let me draw one small box plot here, 1, 2, 3. If I'm drawing a box plot, this will be shown up in the second quadrant. Okay, this is the image under the plots. This plot you can export. Okay, the packages. What and all the packages which I have installed? Packages means libraries. What and all the libraries I have installed on my system is under the packages. If you want help with respect to any one of, suppose you consider you don't know what is box plot, if you just type $box plot, okay, $box plot, the help with respect to that box plot will be shown in the help. 1 minute. Okay, the box plot help page will come up. So these are the purpose of all the fourth quadrants. Okay, so first quadrant is for all the variables and the commands of history of the commands what you have executed, and the second quadrant is for writing the programs, and the third quadrant is for writing the single line of code which you want to right away execute on the particular piece of data, and the fourth quadrant is for accessing the files in the current working directory if you want to see the plots which you have generated so far, and what are the libraries which have been already installed, or if you want to install, or if you want to get the help, you can take the fourth quadrant. And the viewer, don't worry about the viewer for now, we will touch upon the viewer when we come into big data analytics. Okay, so I think I have answered the question. In case if you have any question, you can unmute your mic and you can speak. Okay, so Preeta is asking me some doubts. No data mentioned inside if we present like this in our project. So my point is not about saying you that this kind of plots can be presented as a research this thing, but I was showing that this kind of plots can be possible artistical way in RStudio. This is the capacity of the data analysis. Even the paintings also can be done in that control, or in that level of control we can plot, or we can do the visualization. So I will send you where and all you can get the scripts for executing this kind of plot. It can be found in dataart.com, and the slides will be which has been used for the presentation also will be shared across after the this webinar. So the next thing is here you have the fourth quadrant. In the fourth quadrant you can check. So I am clearing. So just here you have one library. What I'll be doing is I'll load some library, and on that library I will show you some summary statistics. Okay, so there is one library called as a ggplot2. Okay, library ggplot2, library ggplot2. This library we have loaded already. Okay, so in this library it takes some time to load. So once the library has been loaded, ggplot2 is the package for visualization. ggplot2, okay, double colon. So you will be given a drop down of all the functions or the data points within this ggplot2. Okay, what is there in this library? So suppose you don't understand what library is, library will give you a set of functions or set of data points or set of tables which you can use in your project, rather than building the same function again from the scratch. That is the function of the library. So I presume that all of you have done at least C programming course. In that C programming course, you might have come across what the stdio.h, conio.h for printf and scanf functions. The printf and scanf function you have not written, but it's been already written for you to use. You just pass the argument in order to use what is there in the library, right? So likewise, what I'll do is there is one more library called as a G cookbook. Okay, so here in the G cookbook there are some of the data data frames or the tables are available. G cook, these are data sets available. What are the list of data sets are available? We'll see. So there is one data set called as a climate. We'll see what is the climate. So here is the data set, or let us take any better. Okay, this is the data set we have. Otherwise, let me take some other data set so that it will be little clean. G cookbook colon what height weight. There's a some table called as a height weight. So what I'll do is I'm copying this. Okay, so just keep looking at this environment. Here I have only one variable. Now I'll get two variables because that particular table I'm copying in the temp variable. Okay, temp is equal to G cookbook height weight. So there are two variables now. Have you seen that? Okay, so here is a data frame. If I just click on the there is some table kind of structure. If I click on that, okay, I'll be shown all what is there in that table. Okay, I can access that table. So the other way of seeing that table is if I just type temp here, all the table entries will be shown to me. Okay, all that entries will be shown to me. This is one data frame I have loaded from the G cookbook library. So quickly in another 5 minutes, what I'll show you is what and all you can do on this data, so that it will be beneficial for you to do any initial analysis on the data. Okay, so now dimension of the data, dimension of temp. Temp is my data set. So it is having 236 rows and the 5 columns, right? It is having 236 rows and 5 columns. You can verify and analyze this later on. So likewise, you can check row dot names of temp. Okay, how many rows, every row names it is showing. Call dot names of temp. Okay, so it has shown all the column names. So additionally what you can do is summary. So for each column it will give summary. Temp is the data frame. See here. So if in order to get what the sex is 111 females, 125 males, right? 125 males. So for the year column, age year, what is the minimum value, first quadrant, second quadrant, median, maximum value, and for with respect to every column it has given the value, right? Weight in LB for every column, right? So summary is done. Structure of temp. Okay, it has given for every column what is the different data frame is. Sex is a factor of 2 levels, male and female. Age year is something, age month is something else, height in inch is something, weight in LB is something else. Likewise it has given. Okay, so structure, the summary, and the head of temp. So it will give me first 5 rows of this temp table. Tail of temp, it will give me the last 6 rows of this table, temp table. So in order to get any particular column of this table, I can use the subset operator called as a dollar. That will give me all the other columns available in this particular temp table or the data frame. So I can individually access that particular column. Otherwise, temp of 1 will give me the same data written in the data frame format. Okay, so this is a basic exploration one can do. Additionally, so I have shown you the box plot, right? box plot of temp dollar. That means I want to access the particular column. I want to age in the year or height in inch. I want to make one plot of the box plot. So that is okay. 1 minute, because this margin is the height of this plot is little less. That is why it is not. It has given me the error. Let me execute this again. Okay, here I have got the plot. See, I have got the data set from the library and have done initial exploration on that particular data set, and had found out the summary structure of the data set. I have plotted some graph, and further this graph can be divided because there is one column called as a sex, and there is the column on which I am plotting this graph is height in inch. These two columns can be combined. Two box plot I can get, one for the male and another for the female. That all customizations can be done. So the main purpose of this webinar was to introduce you to what exploratory data analysis can do, what are the softwares we'll be using for the exploratory data analysis, and what are some of the basic commands which we can use for doing the initial very basic exploratory data analysis, and introduce you to the different sections of R and R Studio. So what the subsequent sessions, what we will do is one particular topic about the exploratory data analysis we will take, and we will discuss in depth or in detail about the exploratory data analysis topics. So before we schedule the next talk, I ask all of you to please install the software which is required for doing the analysis which we'll be doing in the subsequent sessions. That will be helpful for you to learn whenever you are listening to the webinar. So all that instructions regarding installations to the required software, the list of errors you may be getting, and the PowerPoint presentation used in this webinar will be communicated to all of you. Keeping the time in mind, I have to wind up because we are already overrunning 10 minutes. So I think we have at least got to know that what exploratory data analysis is, what could be done. Now the floor is open for the question and answer. If you have any question, one Veluswamy Kaveri wants to ask any question. Please, sir. Yes, please. Can you please unmute yourself and you can speak? Hello. So any problem? You can unmute yourself, sir, and you can speak. Veluswamy Kaveri. You can see your hands up. Okay. So anyone else, if you have any suggestions or anything or any questions regarding what has been discussed so far, you can ask us, or you can shoot any question. Okay, Veluswamy Kaveri, please ask the question. Okay, maybe it is due to some error or something. Okay, if there are no questions, we can close this session, and the next session or next timings will be communicated to you in the due course. Right? Okay. Thank you all. Thanks for joining. I'll catch up in the next series of videos. Thank you all.